Greetings, Vault Hunters, and welcome to Echoes from the Borderlands, the podcast where we explore the iconic Borderlands franchise through conversations with the writers, devs, artists, and others who are responsible for its creation and its success. I'm your host, Joel Watson, and today we are taking a side quest from our main mission and talking about pride. Vault Hunter pride, and how you show off that pride in the meatiest of meat spaces, not to mention who you share that meaty pride with, and what you do after your meats mingle. Today, we're talking about Borderlands licensing, community, and live ops. I'm joined by Director of Licensing, Erica Hollinshead-Stead, Lead Community Manager, Noel Pugh, Managing Producer of Live Ops, Mario Rodriguez. Welcome.
Sup?
Hello, hello.
Hello. Yeah.
We're starting off casual.
Yeah, you told me to.
This is just a real chill environment. I think for anyone watching this on video, the environment is different than it normally is. We are inundated with a mountain of officially licensed merchandise. Just a truly unbelievable amount of stuff.
If there's not a bunch of stuff around, I don't feel comfortable.
This looks like your office, Erica. This is how our licensing department, you swim Scrooge McDuck style through merchandise.
Yeah, people do criticize us for our office housekeeping, but like, if you see a bunch of stuff and a bunch of cardboard boxes, that means that we are being productive.
There's work getting done,
We
right?
do a ton of stuff. That's why there is a ton of stuff in the office.
You know, for the most part with these episodes, we've been talking to writers, devs, executives, artists, but Borderlands is not a set-it-and-forget-it franchise. Long before and long after a game is released, there's small armies of people, including you guys, continuing the important work of taking care of the games, taking care of our fans, taking care of our community. It involves supporting the games beyond release, creating and nurturing community spaces, and making sure that fans are able to show off that meaty pride I talked about with t-shirts, maquettes, plushies, all the stuff that we are about to be crushed by in this very studio. So one thing I want to do first is sort of get a overview of what each of you do and how it relates to Borderlands as a whole. Mario, what is live ops?
Sure. So live ops is basically everything that happens after the game releases. So once you get your initial launch, we tend to, here at Gearbox, tend to support our games for a long time afterward.
Is that common?
It really depends on the companies, but we, I think, do it very, very well. An example, Borderlands 3, we supported that game for years after the game launched with multiple season passes and seasonal events, mini events. We did a lot of things like that. So yeah, we're very proud of what we do, and you know, looking at the game when it released versus now, it's a completely different experience, and so we're super proud of that.
Is there? I know that it's been so long that we've had, you know, day one updates and people expect patches, and it's considered a live living thing up until a point. And it hasn't always been that way. Does it change how we approach development? Not in a we'll fix it later kind of way, but in a we're not done, like we can keep going kind of way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's the usual, like, you know, we have a specific timeline. So there are things that we would love to make in all of our games, but being able to patch our games and continue to develop them after they release kind of makes a lot of those things a reality. And so yeah, we do a lot of those things, and like they keep going for years after. And with Borderlands, we tried to do we take some risks and try to do some different things here and there. Like we have our traditional DLCs that are big pieces of content. But more recently, we've been able to do things like mini events and micro patch events and things like that, where we can manipulate some data in the game and make something kind of unique for players out there that we can kind of do on a quicker cadence.
Do you look at the way players are playing from the back end and go, oh, if we change this, that'd be fun?
Yeah, for sure. Even from Wonderlands, we actually got community engagement to create an actual mini event where people just voted online to kind of see what they wanted in different dungeon runs. And even though it turned out to be all mimics.
See, the problem is giving people what they ask for.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
But that was a fun week, not just for the players, but also for us. I mean, it was something really unique that we hadn't done before.
It's interesting coming from, I've got to be the oldest person here, right? Probably.
I don't think you can't be very much older than me.
I'm 42.
Yeah.
I come from here's your game, and if it's broken, which I did have an NES game with a glitch that, I mean, you could not beat it. It was unbeatable because of a glitch on the final boss, that you just think, you internalize that as I suck. Like, I'm not good enough to beat this, and they can't fix it. And then every great once in a while, if it's a hit, if it's a Mario, there's multiple revisions of that cart, but you never know what you're going to get. The way that we develop now and the way that you support games now, I think eliminates that possibility to the best of our ability, but B, like you're saying, it keeps this ongoing sense of what's happening now. Like, it's not a finished product. It's an active sort of community space at that point where you can do these events with other, like-minded gamers.
Yeah, for sure. And now we have the power to do that for, a lot of our games. So, for example, Borderlands 2, that game released, and then 7 years later, we decided to release a DLC that was a bridge to Borderlands 3.
Right.
So, so that was something that, again, was something we hadn't done before, but we have the ability to do it now. And
okay,
that's really exciting.
And in respect to, like, looking at the numbers and deciding what to do, how much does a lot of people are still playing Borderlands 2 affect your decisions there?
It is something we take a look at very closely. I mean, all the time.
Yeah, I feel like there's as developers and as publishers, we have this keen insight into what are people actually doing with these games that we're putting out. And man, if they never put it down, like, I don't know, there's a reward to be. We're being rewarded by the fact that it's still selling, so let's reward them by continuing support. That's
I will
awesome.
say, and he might not even know this, but like, I for sure take that information of how many people are still playing X game, and I've said that number in business meetings, like pitches with retailers, like et cetera. Like, the information that you have, we take it and use it in ways sometimes that you don't even know about.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Noelle, as lead community manager, are you in direct communication with fans, or are there layers between you and the fans?
It kind of depends on which platform. So yes, sometimes. And then sometimes it's like in the case of the Discord, it's that community is actually a community ran Discord that is an official server, and we have the amazing moderators that kick ass every day. And so for a lot of the time, they're the ones who are like moderating it and taking care of it. But like, we can go in there and like the community team in general can go in there and.
But those
have
moderators have a
conversations
direct
all the
line to
time.
you, and
Yeah,
so
we have like a mod chat on the side. But yeah, other than that, like, yeah, it's very much one-on-one a lot of the time. Community kind of does a whole lot of things, a lot of the long form communications, a lot of the but a lot of the like one-offs, like, hey, you've got a question, like, let's go in and
Right.
answer it too.
Is that level of accessibility common, especially in a AAA, games developer and publisher?
It depends on the studio, kind of like with live in general.
I feel like both
Yeah.
of you lit up and went, I know who I want to say doesn't do it, but I can't.
No, I absolutely love seeing fellow community managers managing their communities and how they do it, and the conversations that they're having and the little things they get to do with their community. So there's not anybody I would be like, no, but
Y'all are bad.
there's some I'm like, man, you guys are having a lot of fun over there, like, and it's really resonating with the community, and so that's really exciting.
So then we steal that idea and we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah, and generally, like, the different companies have different levels of teams and how many people they have able to fully support each one of their titles too, and so that makes.
Are we positioned with a robust team of community engagement, or are we doing this on a scrappy team?
We are so scrappy.
Okay.
We are doing great.
So if you look at Gearbox community engagement and go, wow, they're getting it done, it's literally being done by a small dedicated team of people.
Yeah, like for Borderlands 3 specifically, on the Gearbox side, it was just me handling all of that. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was like, a huge team, but we were able to get a lot of stuff and a lot of interactions and conversations going between the community and the developers, and which is ultimately my actual position, is like
Right.
keep that conversation going.
And this sort of gets into what I was talking about with Mario. The way things have changed in recent decades is that's expected now. I feel like in a way that you might think it's expected that I should gripe about a movie I don't like on the internet, you are not expecting to have a discourse with the director. In games, I feel like the fans are like, no, depending on the publisher, there's an open discourse, and maybe I can have positive effect on the thing that I enjoy.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like a mix of that, but it's also a mix from the developers just wanting to be more transparent and open with that process. Like there is a lot of critiques out there on the internet, but people are a lot more excited and willing to root for like the people around that they're doing. And so being able to show off like, hey, like, no, these guys, like Mario's out here, making some stuff happen. Eric is out here making some stuff happen.
It's not a faceless monster corporation.
Right.
It's a faced monster corporation.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, like, even though they're scrappy, like they get everything the community is saying and they bring it all back to us. Like, it's not like they're just keeping it in a vault somewhere. We hear everything the community is saying just because of people like Noel that kind of are scouring the internet, basically getting all the feedback from players and then bringing that to our team, and so that we can address some of the issues.
So there's a direct flow from I bought the game, I played the game, I have feedback. I'm almost immediately able to get that feedback submitted in a way that it's going to eventually reach the developers that can do something about it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm everywhere. It's like in Twitch chats, we're on Twitter, we're in the Discords, we're looking at the Facebook comments, anywhere, and the Reddit and everything, anywhere that the community is, like we are looking at the YouTube comments, all of it.
Sounds like we're spying on them.
Aggressively. Yeah.
Sounds that way for a reason.
Eyes everywhere, but it's...
Big sister is watching.
Yeah, exactly. But we've gotten a lot of really great, feedback from that community and have been able to implement that in the game with Mario's team, and just like as we think about, future titles from Gearbox. So it's been incredibly valuable to be kind of big sistering.
At what point did you, or have you had the realization yet that being extremely online could be a career? Because I feel like part of what we're doing is showing the jobs that go into making Borderlands games, from, artists and devs and writers to everything else. And I kind of want people to know, like, that's a job. Yeah.
It didn't super hit me until Borderlands 3 really launched. And then we had some other titles as well, but that one is where a lot of that, like, really going in there and really getting all of that information. And then Borderlands 3 was also a very different setup than we had at Gearbox previously when it came to our games. So me being there, and we had our live team, and we were getting all of this feedback and bringing it back. But that was the first time I was like, community is super, super important, guys. Like, the things that they're saying actually do make an impact. We have some data to back up the things that we're seeing online. So I've got a list of, like, symptoms, right, that people are experiencing. How do we solve for this? Like, obviously there's something going on that the community would like to see differently, that would make them want to play this more, that would make them engage with this more, which just kind of turns into, like, they'll play more.
Between collecting that data and going to Mario and your team, are there ever discussions of, well, yeah, they want that, but that's not great. Like, that's not good for the game.
Yeah, for sure. That happens all the time. Because also, I mean, you got to give it, I mean, the fans don't really know how we built the engine for the game.
Right.
Or they don't know how specific
adding a wheel to the catcher ride is going to blow up the entire game. But like, it doesn't matter how bad you want 5 wheels or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes there are Band-Aid solutions. Sometimes there are things like that we have to really look into. And even though the feedback might say something, we might find a creative way to do something that might accomplish multiple things. So,
and that's kind of a part of me saying, like, the symptom, right? Because somebody can be like, oh,
it's not necessarily the problem.
Right.
It's just I feel, or I kind of see, or
I have a frustration with this particular part.
Right.
Which is actually because they are let's say, looking for guns at a certain level at a certain place, and they just want to be able to keep doing that. But they're like, this gun isn't dropping.
There's a little gun desert here.
Yeah, and so then it's like, hey, we're seeing that there's some struggles here, but this doesn't line up with like what's actually going on when we look at the data, and we can be like, oh, there's a gun desert.
Yeah, easy fix.
Yeah.
Erica is director of licensing. I imagine you spend most of your time, let's say 90%, approving or denying things with Claptrap on it.
Well, okay, so first...
Is that a horrible reduction of your important work?
Well, first of all, I just realized live on the air, we are using my old job title. I am actually now creative director of licensing and biz dev.
Hey, you got a promotion just now.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Yeah.
And so the distinction is basically like, since licensing has expanded so much, like we're kind of getting to specialize. And so now like I don't spend my time as much in like the doing contracts and business meetings, and I spend more time like actually criticizing people's things. But I feel like I should probably explain what licensing is.
Absolutely.
In the first place. So licensing is essentially, we have a property, we have an IP, we have a universe that we've built. Other people make things, and sometimes they want to use our universe. And so a business deal happens, and generally we get a royalty back, which is, you know, some percent, might be 12%, 6%, et cetera, depending on what the product is, et cetera. Sometimes it's completely different than that, because we will do a custom deal to facilitate a thing if we really believe in it. And then basically they submit their things to us, and we give them feedback, direction. We give them some assets to help them execute their thing. And then in the end, we approve or deny it. And then depending on what the product is, there's still a whole bunch of steps between it and you, which might include like needing to sell it into retail, or, you know, get it on an online website, or however it connects to the people who are going to have it at the end. That's the real explanation of licensing. But if I launch into that trying to explain my job and people look bored, I just say, okay, so really I spend a lot of time checking things to see if there are dicks in them that shouldn't be there.
Sure.
Sometimes like seeing if the dick joke is at the level that it should be for that particular property, or maybe it shouldn't be there at all. And also I kill other people's darlings.
Dick joke evaluator.
Yes.
Darling killer.
Yeah.
This is
Dream Crusher.
Dream Crusher. This is when you come over the horizon with your armies and your banners are seen from the castle turrets. They go, Dream Killer, Dick Noticer.
I'm really good at all of this.
Yeah, let's talk dick jokes and merchandise then. When it's on purpose, obviously it's on purpose. When it's not on purpose, are you training yourself to go, someone's going to think that's a phallus?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because a lot of the job, both in the creative aspect and where you might be looking for dicks, et cetera, and I mean, honestly, even in the business aspects, like doing contracts and stuff, you are always kind of looking for the worst possible possibility.
Right.
And so like when I look at a thing, I don't get my mind out of the gutter. Like, you know, we're looking at things, and then, you know, sometimes, and we have a little phrase if we have to talk about this in mixed company. Like among my team, we are very blunt. We're all used to it. It's part of the job. If we're like talking to another team, we're like, hey, have you noticed that part of the logo there? It looks a little bit awkwardly anatomical. And then usually people are like, what do you mean? And then they look at it, and then they're like, it's a dick. Yeah.
I like that you can be a sort of a liaison, a concierge, if you will, to people who aren't immediately scouting for dicks in everything. It's like, no, I'm just a regular person. I don't see that everywhere.
Yeah, and well, I mean, and the other aspect is,
and you're like, I can help.
Sometimes I feel like everybody sees it, but nobody is willing to be the person who puts their face on, hey, I looked at that and I saw something perverted, and I'm like, hey.
So you're jumping on a dick-shaped grenade for people that can't.
And it's not,
You're a hero.
I feel like we just like to say the word dick over and over again here, but like, it's not just dicks. Like sometimes it's also like, this just looks odd. This minor detail makes this character not look like themselves. Like everybody can see that when they look at this character in this figure or t-shirt art or whatever it is, like, you know, everybody's like, this character doesn't look quite right. You know, why does she look so angry? She's not an angry character. It's wrong. I can tell you why it's wrong. It's that one little line right there. Right. Like, just turn that line upward at the corner and you're good to go.
So when you're in that position to make those kinds of calls, I know you have style guides and things, but is it more just your intimate knowledge of the franchise, the characters, the games themselves?
Yeah, I mean, like, so we do have style guides, but the thing about the licensing style guides, we make those. Like, my team works with an agency to make those. We usually have to shoot first before any of the branding is done on the game, et cetera, because of product timelines. So we do have to get really deep knowledge of the game to then get that agency to make the style guide that we want. And the point of our style guide is kind of to make an asset set that anybody can take so that your grandma could take those assets and make cool t-shirt designs, basically. So we made those style guides, but then we're also kind of in charge of choosing whether we're going to allow rule breaks of them. And honestly, like, we do a lot. Like, a lot of the time, what we're looking for is not, this does not fall comfortably in line with our style guide, but like, is this a cool product? Does it look right? Does it connect to, when we encounter fans, what they reflect back to us about the character or the faction or the whatever this thing is that is capturing people's imaginations? You know, like, we're trying to make sure that this is a thing that celebrates the universe, that is going to connect with a person who connects to that particular part of the universe. And that is like that's one of our big philosophies is, okay, for one thing, like, I consider myself to work for the IP. Like, I work for the universe, and that is what I serve. I'm not in the business of giving fans exactly what they want, because the best thing,
Mario's job.
Yeah. The best thing I can give them is something that protects that universe and does the right thing for that universe that they already love. And so then we have a philosophy that is, we respect, and we try not to say the word fans because we think that sounds a little arrogant sometimes, but we respect our audience or our fans by respecting the characters that they relate to. And so we have a lot of rules around like we try to never put the joke on our character. Like, we can laugh with them, but we don't laugh at them. I have a rule that we don't allow character dismemberments in product.
What happened that made you go, no, line in the sand, no dismemberments?
Okay, so we may be overhyping dismemberment a little bit, but like people will have things where they want to make a product like, okay, so maybe somebody wants to make the lamp from A Christmas Story, basically, except they want it to be Moxie's leg. I would probably say no to that, because you are taking a limb off of our character and just representing that limb instead of representing the character. That's weird.
Hey, Vault Hunters. Since this episode is all about community, I thought I'd read a few of the suggestions that fans have submitted recently. Let's see. Here's one from Siren Song 67. They write, Claptrap plus Butt Stallion OTP forever. Should the official ship name be Clap Stallion or Butt Trap? I feel like that one's obvious. Let's try another one. Lonesome Jack 68 says, 3 words, a trillion knives. Then it just has an address to send royalty checks to. It's weird. Last one. Clap Thirst Trap 69 asks, why don't Gearbox and 2K offer a Borderlands bundle that has every Borderlands game to date for one great price? Why isn't it called the Borderlands Collection Pandora's Box? And furthermore, why isn't it available now on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC? Honestly, I don't know. That actually seems like a pretty good idea. When the podcast is over, I'll make some phone calls. So thank you, Clap Thirst Trap 69. Thanks. Let's talk about listening to players, fans, listening to the audience. Once a Borderlands game is released, does the feedback start flowing in immediately?
Oh my God, before. Yes, immediately.
What are they reacting to before? The trailers?
The trailers and just like the hype and the things that they want it to be, and they're putting all of these expectations on what it could be, which I think is the trap that we kind of get in with video games in general. But yeah, they're like, oh man, I want it to have this, I want it to have this, it better be like this, I can't wait. And they're theory crafting.
I assume it has this.
Yeah, right. And it's they're theory crafting how they're gonna play the characters, like what kinds of weapons they're going to be able to do, like how they're going to like blast through. So yeah, there's a lot that goes in before a game even comes out.
I mean, and every once in a while before the game comes out, like they're reacting to anything they can get. Every once in a while they're reacting to some stupid personal tweet that I made that is actually nothing to do with a work thing. Like,
yeah, constantly.
Sorry, PR guy.
he knows. And then right after it starts coming in, and usually everybody's really excited, right at first, because they're like, yes, my hands are finally on it.
It's probably been 4 to 5 years since the last time they had a big official,
I mean, Borderlands was 7 between 2 and 3. I mean, like we had pre-sequel in there as well.
Pre-sequel, oh my God.
Yeah, I said it was in there. But I mean, that was, a significant amount of time. And so fans were just clamoring. And then as soon as the game comes out, they're excited. And then the feedback starts rolling in. I wish this was a little different and that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. Like, I know that when you first, especially if you've been anticipating it, when you first get a game, yeah, you might spend a weekend in a hole where it's like, no, I just did 12 hours on a stretch or something. And that was my plan. I took off work, whatever. Like, this is what I've been waiting for. But then to immediately go, they gotta know what I think about this. But that it's appreciated. So like it's a weird impulse that I do not share. But I'm like, but it's going towards the betterment of the game for everybody. So it's kind of wholesome.
I think I love doing this. Like, I love doing community. I love seeing, what people are saying about it, and just like, oh, this little thing, that little thing, and watching everybody, talk about the different things that they like, and like debate kind of almost to a point, to a point, and just like keep that conversation going and engaging with it. And
is there ever a time when that happens that you're like, we did not even think they were going to care about blah, but they really care about blah? Like, we've got to reinforce that somehow.
Yeah, I would probably say definitely. I guess something that we could point to, that I tend to point to a lot, is when Borderlands 3 first came out, we didn't have dedicated drops. We didn't have dedicated places where you can go and refarm loot. But farming loot is really, really important to the Borderlands franchise as a whole. And so it comes out and everybody's like, we didn't have the dedicated drops. They're like, how do I continue to get this thing? And it was something that everybody mentioned. And it was like, hey, I want to be able to farm the best version of this gun at all the levels. And it was feedback that we brought back. And eventually we were able to add drop pools to the game. And then with Bounty of Blood, it was already in. Like, that was right from the front at that DLC.
Yeah, and I think not only like is it cool to see that, but there are also kind of cool moments that we get to experience too, of like, the game comes out and the community has feedback. And then we already have plans of like what's coming out in the next patch or what's coming out with this DLC or stuff. So we have a list of things that, we're going to get to. And so when we see fans requesting things that are already on our list,
right?
That's going to be like, that's also kind of just like, oh, they got to wait. But I can't say anything, but they got to wait. They're going to get it soon.
But it's an instant win. And there's two things that happen there, I think, is it shows as developers, we're already in tune with what needs to happen in the game. And it also gives the fan a win, even if they don't realize you're already on the same level. It's like, what I want is what they want. No matter how they experience that, either thinking they took their suggestion or just thinking we're already thinking the same thing. It's a good feeling.
Of course, we're never going to say like, that was on our list. Like,
shut up, we're already doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of the developers here, they're in the community. They love the franchise just as much as we do, just as much as everybody else does. And so they're also thinking that stuff as well. And there's a lot of stuff that they want to be able to put in to make it feel more, authentically Borderlands. And there are things that there's an overlap.
Right, absolutely. It's a conversation. Like, I think that's one of the things that I find the most striking about this form of media and where it is right now is, unlike TV, unlike streaming, unlike movies, unlike music, games are a conversation between the developers and the audience. Noelle, you had mentioned that Borderlands 3 handled community feedback differently. Was that on purpose, or was it a reaction?
We had. It's kind of a reaction to where the industry, I think, is moving as a whole. But because obviously we had a version of a community manager for a majority of the time, Erica.
Yeah, she's looking at me because I started in marketing. I was marketing producer was my first title. And at that point in time, like it was kind of an all hands on deck, and everybody who was marketing, community, PR, etc., we were all in one office, and everybody was kind of doing whatever needed done. And when we started publishing like Homeworld Remastered, we were all doing that too. So it was
scrappy,
scrappy now,
Scrappy.
but it was like it was.
Yeah, it was scrappy. And when I first started, which was 5 years ago now, like when I first started, it was still very much like that, and so it's changed a lot. And
so you would have seen sort of the tail end of a pre-sequel. You would have seen like pre-sequel support, but into the launch of BL3.
Yeah,
right?
For the most part. It was more, when I first came on, it was like I
think it was like Battleborn.
Yeah, it was the tail end of Battleborn.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Like I was still updating like shift news for Battleborn at the time. But yeah, that changed into more of like I don't know too much of what happened before I was here, but I know that whenever I came here, the level of just like attention that the developers gave the community changed. It felt changed to me. Like it started off and we were having live ops meetings, and the conversation was like, yeah, but I mean, like, do we, what are these? Do we really need to do these things? Whatever. And then that's changed to being like, no, yeah, we have the data to back it up. The community is here. Like we are see and hear them, and just the level of respect and understanding and appreciation.
Well, it also sounds like you approach it though from a calculated way. Like it's not a knee-jerk reaction to the fans think the handsome Jack should have different hair. Like it's not a knee-jerk reaction, but with that data to back it up, it's like I kind of want to go into that. If I was in your position, I would want to go into that meeting with the data and be like, here's what I want to do. We don't believe you. Boom. Stack of data.
Yeah,
like,
I would come in with lists of complaints and be like, this is how many times I've seen it. These are all the different platforms I've seen it on. These are the things I've seen the most. Like, these are things that matter. Like,
which isn't to say that Gearbox would be like, we don't believe you. But I'm just saying, like, I love that it's like, I want to do this, and here's all the numbers that say we absolutely should do it.
Yeah, it's helpful, but ultimately, like, the conversation between that developer and the community it felt different and more smooth ultimately. Like after that.
Yeah, I mean, she brings all the feedback from our players, and basically, Borderlands 3 was my first big AAA title, and that's when I started doing more of the live stuff. And for that, we had weekly meetings, like for example, every Monday morning, and it was like Noel, it was people from QA, we have our creative director, we had designers, we had more producers, we had a bunch of people in that meeting, basically just to hear like what happened last week in the game, basically. And so she would bring in a lot of information
kind
and
of
data.
An after-action report.
Right, yeah. And not only that, but like it would help us kind of plan out future things too. So like if we couldn't address that thing that they really wanted right away, then we would put it in the list of things to do for the next patch or for things like that.
Are there features that you've built with the community?
Yeah, for sure. One of the big ones is the anointment reroll machine. So that one, we had an idea of when BL3 launched that anointments were the new thing, basically for Borderlands, and so we had an idea of like people kind of what kind of reaction they would have. But after the game released, we kind of got more clarification on that and feedback and all that. So one of the big things that came up was I want to keep this weapon, but I don't like the anointment on it. And in order to farm the right one, because we have billions and billions of guns, it would take so long to get it. So they wanted an easy access.
You're saying you want... Yeah, I want this
specific gun with this specific
699 millionth 942nd possibility gun.
Yeah.
And I want it again.
You gotta make number go up all the time.
This is actually a really good example of like something that looks like a gift. Like if you ask players what do they want, they might be like, oh, it's great that we have so many different guns, and wouldn't it be cooler if there was another permutation of something that could be different on them? And then they get it, and it's like, oh, now it's harder for me to get the one right gun to me.
Yep.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
they each make their own builds their own certain way, or they're like trying to follow one of the content creators' builds that they always come up and they're like, this guy got this reroll, but he plays 10 hours a day every day, and I have a job.
Yeah.
Oh, this is
not that content creation
musicians.
is not.
This is when you see someone playing a guitar and you think if you buy that guitar you can play like them, and you can't. Okay.
Yeah,
I get it.
I've always found that to be true, though.
Man, that's why you play a lot of instruments.
Not all of us are blessed. Yeah.
Are there story elements that have been developed with the community that have gone into DLCs or into seasonal events? Or
I mean, we did have, for example, what is it, Captain Haunt.
Captain Haunt?
Yeah, so the Trant family was a very popular character in Borderlands 3. And when we were making Bloody Harvest, we needed a boss. And so in the game, you defeat the Trant family. And so now we found a way to make one of them as a ghost character. And so that was
it rhymes. So, that's a leg up.
And so it quickly became a fan favorite. And so when we would make mini events and stuff like that, we would sometimes make Captain Haunt like a big kind of raid boss type boss. And so, we do a lot of things like that.
Is it risky giving fans what they ask for? Is it
the preconceived expectations?
We're playing a dangerous game.
Yeah, it constantly is. But I mean, ultimately, like, you guys are, the developers are making the Borderlands that it's according to that vision, to their vision. And
I think the conversation that we've outlined, the way that the information flows, it almost seems designed to weed out those kinds of potentially dangerous decisions, where it's like the fans are asking for this. Well, the people that made it and love it and take care of it think it should kind of, we can do that this way, but not exactly this way. And then we put it out, we gather more feedback, and it just kind of keeps it going, as opposed to, knee-jerk reactions. And
yeah, I mean, for example, one of the things that in BO3 was Iridium at one point was a currency that kind of had not a lot of use. And so when we introduced the raid boss, for example, then we made it so that you can only get to the raid boss if you pay a certain amount of Iridium through door. And so that became something that we had to keep an eye on, because we also wanted to make sure that the currency was valuable enough, but also that wasn't too hard to get into so that players wouldn't go and play it. So we did a lot of that. And then not only that, we do mini events that give you more Iridium. So we take a lot of that feedback and kind of adjust our events and adjust our kind of data in the game so that we can make sure that it's available for as many people as possible.
A year or two after launch, do you feel like the games are better than they were when they came out, just by virtue of that conversation and that sort of update cycle?
Yeah, I think Borderlands 3 is a... Yeah, I think it was a good game at launch. I think it is a great game now.
That's fair. We've talked a lot about online community spaces. Let's talk about, I love to say it, meaty community spaces. I feel like conventions are the place where not only do fans get to meet devs and get to explore, maybe they're getting to play a demo of something that's not going to be out for a year, but it's also a place that they get to meet each other and sort of find their tribe. If I see you across the hall wearing one of the 10 million shirts that Erica's team has officially licensed, and I've got a similar shirt, maybe we're buds, that's kind of how it all works. I know that most recently the Borderlands 3 PAX announcement was a huge event for Gearbox, and you were involved with that, right?
Yeah. So it was. So the announcement, I just love talking about it. It's one of my dragons that I'll probably be chasing for the rest of my community career, honestly. Because we announced Borderlands 3 at PAX, and everybody, had been waiting. We've gotten all of our "Where is Borderlands 3s" on the Facebook.
Get that Facebook guy. Here it is.
All of the devs were the office was buzzing, right? Everybody knows it's finally coming, and they put years and years of all their hard work and their dedication and their just lives into this. And this moment is finally happening, and it comes time to test it. And we're all in there, and like all of the developers that have gone to PAX are in there. Everybody doing marketing is in there, and they're testing it, and it starts. And all of us, like, you could just feel the emotional, like, energy
like a rock concert
in the room.
Yeah.
And then we actually got to like showing it to the world. And we had the little technical thing, but once it started going, there was not a dry eye at all in that audience or in the back. And I'm getting like notifications because people from the studio are messaging me pictures of everybody was down at Nerdvana, which is below us. And they were just sending me pictures of just all of the developers just crying and so like sharing that moment. It was incredible.
Is that so? It's not just an opportunity to celebrate games. It's not just an opportunity for fans to meet each other or meet the devs, but for also devs to finally sort of feel that in-person love.
Yeah, like, and be able to share the things that they haven't been able to talk about and work on and that they've been working on.
That's true. The way this industry works, it's highly secretive.
Yeah.
You think Marvel movies are secretive? This is highly secretive. And it's done almost in a vacuum. Like once you're in this building, the doors seal up, and it's like no secrets come in, no secrets go out.
But it's not secretive because we're mean. It's like we're all keeping this secret because, the livelihood of everyone depends on
thousands of people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
But it's also I don't want to say insular because this is a huge team and you have lots of people that you can share triumphs and sadnesses and everything else with, but it can be 7 years where it's like, oh my God, can the thing just be out? Can they experience what I've been working on?
I mean, it's the combined effort of all of these different departments and finally making this amazing like piece of art that gets to go out there.
And then I would assume with a reaction like that, it's pretty fulfilling.
Yeah, for sure.
It's incredible.
It's probably the highest morale moment that any game company can have.
Yeah, that's why announcements are so sacred to developers and why anytime that there's a leak, like it hurts every single developer, not just in your company either, like because other developers are like, if that happened to me, I'd be devastated.
Cosplay is huge at conventions. Is cosplay huge for Borderlands?
Yes, 100%. We have
tiny bit.
Yeah, just a little. Yeah, we have one of the most spectacular cosplay communities, not biased at all. But it's because of so many different things, and one of them is definitely like, for example, with Moxie, the cosplayers, like even just her character development, as I've been told, like the idea for her character was that you could walk into any Hot Topic, grab the things you needed for a Moxie cosplay, and here you are, you're Moxie.
I need a leather top hat. I need a Harley Quinn bustier. I need some fishnets.
My striped socks.
That's on aisle 2.
Yeah. And so that's the rumor, that's the story from when her conception was. And
she looks like she works at a Hot Topic, honestly. So
she probably, might have, who could say?
You never know.
But that, and then also just the art style being so distinct.
Right.
It's, it's really easy to go and grab an eyeliner and just, here you go. You've got your very distinct look.
I will say,
look like Borderlands.
Even before I was fully aware of Borderlands, I was aware of the art style. Yeah. And the first time I saw somebody nail it in a cosplay, and it was a full body, full costume paint. Like the outlines, perfect jaw outline feeds into perfect, like the outline on the collar, down the sleeve. And then you probably had to look at them from one angle. But like from that angle, it was like, oh, is this CG? No, it's a human.
The cosplayers and, it's such a, cosplay in general can be such a like helpful community too. Like you have a lot of cosplayers that they'll do streams and they'll do their YouTube videos and all of that to kind of show how they made their costumes. And so it's more inclusive for people coming in too. So you see these people and they're like, look at my really cool Tiny Tina cosplay. And you're like, I want to do that.
There was a live Tiny Tina at the launch party. I mean, I'm sorry that I don't know her name. But it was like, oh my God, she came to life and she's here.
Yeah.
like fully embodied plastic hair, like giant witch hat. Like, it was awesome.
And I think like we have to give a shout out to like the Gearbox art team here too, because like the art style is iconic, yes, but it's also like the amount of attention they put into the characters and the way that like every aspect of that character design, there is so much storytelling in the way they do that character design and the way that everything about the visual of that character plays with the character's personality and what they do in narrative. And like I think I appreciated that when I first came to Gearbox, but since then, you know, working on other things and licensing, like I've had situations where some of my license projects have to imagine things that don't exist in the game. And so when you sit down and you're like critiquing new content for Borderlands, you have to start reverse engineering that whole thing. And it gives you a different like understanding for, oh, if you don't put that level of attention to how is the visual feeding the storytelling, how does the character design tell you who the character is and yet make them not a trope, all of a sudden you're like, oh, these people that I know who are doing these characters that I've been working with for years. I'm trying not to swear too much, but holy shit, like now I see what they've been doing.
Right.
And every
Like-
character looks really, really distinct from each
Yeah.
other.
There's a lot of
too.
intention behind it.
Yeah.
A lot of them
Yeah.
we can use their color story to make product that
Yeah.
you have no
Oh.
no visual of the character
There-
on it and people know who it is.
There's I was digging through a closet here, looking for set dressing and t-shirts and things, and there's kind of an abstract Claptrap shirt that's basically just yellow with some stripes on it, and I was like, everyone would know what that is. Everybody. It is iconic. Do we ever license products that are almost specifically for cosplay?
Yes, and actually there's a pair of bunny ears right there on the table, and I'm afraid to lean for them.
Yeah,
because
we're not going to
Mike's-
move them.
But yeah, like that is some stuff that we did with Spirit Halloween. We've done with a few different partners, like items that are, you know, cosplay items. And because I know that some hardcore cosplayers are going to be listening to this, like I'm going to tell you straight up, like, okay, is your Tiny Tina costume that you put hundreds of hours into better than mine that gets sold at an accessible price at mainstream retail? Yes, it is, you guys. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, but not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the time or has the skills or whatever can make that costume. So a lot of times, you know, we do have partners who provide things that are like, if you need an easy point of entry into cosplay or, you know, even just being a character for Halloween, or I don't care if you want to wear those bunny ears in your regular life, no judgment, you know, like those partners will get people in that door there. And yes, it is not to the same level as like world-class cosplayers because, you know, when you make things for mass market, every ink line, every color used, every little place where the sculpt of it has a shape, that's an increase in cost. And we want as many people as possible to be able to get these things.
You had told me, Erica, that you believe we did the biggest PAX panel giveaway ever.
Okay, I challenge you guys. Call me a liar. But the year that we did, what year was this? It was in the pandemic. We did the online PAX panel, and we gave away 500 gun replicas, like this big gun replicas. I cannot remember what the price of those at retail was, but it was not cheap. We gave away 500 of those. I have been looking. I looked at the time. I've been looking ever since. I cannot find another panel giveaway that I think is either 500 things or
that amount of
dollar
money.
amount, and especially not an online panel giveaway.
And they had to be shipped?
Oh yeah, yeah. And the partner super came through on that too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was this something that anyone could have bought later, or is there 500 and that's it?
I believe that was like the last of those.
Oh, wow.
We cleaned out the last as we were kind of finishing out that deal.
I know that sometimes for conventions we bring Borderlands things into Meat World. Tell us about the Froyo truck.
So the Froyo truck, that was for New Tales of the Borderlands from last year. And we have a theme. We do everything at PAX. But during this one, to help promote that one, 2K was like, Froyo truck? And we were like, yes, Froyo truck. That makes total sense. And so we had we had a truck, and it was completely wrapped as if it was from Fran's Froyo shop and on the move. And a bunch of the 2K marketing people wore Fran costumes, and we were just giving away Froyo to anybody that was there to do it. But it was such a cool, like, immersive little event.
There's something striking about, especially with the Borderlands art style, seeing it in real life. Like, we have 10-foot tall Borderlands 3 character statues in striking detail all over this place.
And they wear real clothes, the Borderlands 3 ones.
They
It's
do.
super weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's
when you see
ominous.
them taken apart and the clothes are like, when they're in pieces and the clothes are like, you can see that they're actual fabric, so disconcerting.
Yeah, those were made. I think those were made for the gameplay reveal event that we did, where we had like 500 press and influencers, 2 days in LA, and they were all like playing and like streaming the game at this little event space, and we had these statues there of Troy and Tyrene, and then I think those guys might have been there, but they might have been at a different event. But yeah, it's insane the kind of stuff that we were able to.
And then once you've done made statues, you ship them
You keep
around to
them.
every
Yeah.
show that you
Right,
do
right.
that year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So they become like your best friends and travel buddies. Like,
yeah, you get real used to
Plus,
it.
it's the thing everybody wants to take pictures with.
Yeah.
It's,
That's the thing. Like, hey, I was here for this event,
Yeah.
and they get the picture with it, and they're like, this lives with me forever, you know.
well, it's also, I mean, again, they are so realistic that if you were 10 or 12 feet tall, it would seem like they'd come to life. But they're avatar scale to us, so they're kind of imposing. Tell me, Erica, about the PAX garage sale.
yeah. So scrappiness.
Scrappy do.
Yeah. So the thing about PAXs is they happen every year, and sometimes we know from a long way out that that's going to fit nicely with something we want to do, and we plan things way far ahead of time. And then sometimes every once in a while, somebody comes to you and is like, hey, it turns out we are doing this thing at PAX this year, and can you guys put together a store for the booth? And there is not time to put together a store, like not at all, but like that's exactly the kind of thing that my team wants to do. So there is no way we are not doing that.
Right.
So
Challenge accepted.
yes, challenge accepted. And so we went down and started pulling things, out of the deep cut archives, like our closet that's here. Some of these things were samples of things that were sold. Some of these things were things that were never sold, like shirts that were made for the dev team. Like some of these things were stuff that was here extra when I got here almost 10 years ago. Okay. Like, so some of the stuff was super rare. We packed all that up on pallets, shipped it to PAX, and we literally had a garage sale as our PAX booth store. We did have a few
Did you
new
put little
things.
stickers on everything? Is $1? Is $2?
So we did do some fun things, like we made some grab bags, and we wound up continuing to make them, like where we were scavenging for paper sacks at the con and just throwing things in them, putting them up there, and then they'd sell instantly, and we'd scramble to make another one. People really like that.
There's something about no one's ever going to mistake Gearbox for a small indie developer, but when you do stuff like that, it feels it's scrappy. It feels there's a DIY mentality to it.
I mean, I still think of us as that indie developer, because when I got here, we were still, at
Right.
that time, I think we were saying, we think we're probably the largest indie developer. And we still have, like, we've grown up a lot, and we've got a lot more, like a lot of things they were talking about earlier, we've got better at things, and more organization makes it better. But I still feel like we have that heart of, like, scrappy, we're going to put it
There's
together.
a punk rock vibe to it. This
Yeah.
is something we talked about, especially on the Borderlands 1 episode, is that by necessity, there's no other way to get this done, it was very punk rock. And I think by laying that foundation in Borderlands and in Gearbox as a whole, it continues. I hope it continues.
Yeah. I mean, I spent the pre-sequel launch party repeatedly troubleshooting and running the game demo on my laptop in order to, 1, have demos, and 2, meet a partner obligation. And it sucked. But it was also amazing. And it's like I always want to be that person, like I always want to be like, oh, you're telling me that it can't be done. We can't do this thing we need to do. No, we're going to do it. We're going to fucking do it.
What is the DIY-ist thing you've had to do for licensing?
It's hard to pick a top one. There is a Borderlands 3 vinyl cover with a psycho sitting with a foot up on a speaker. We were trying to do drawovers to get the pose just right for that, and we couldn't do it. So I went down and posed in the Duke Nukem throne in the lobby. There is a female...
You have similar proportions, so yeah.
Well, it's kind of funny, too, because that image, sometimes I have to Google for things we've done. And when I am scrolling through Google image search and that album cover comes up, it has enough of my personal body language that I go, why is there a picture of me in the search results? And it's not. It's that vinyl cover. That's not the only, there have been other character poses that I or people on my team have posed for. But probably one of the funniest is, okay.
You're reaching for something.
So I am holding a little, this is kind of like a big, I don't know, what
shot
is this?
Glass?
Yeah,
it's
big
like a
shot glass.
double-sized shot glass.
And it's got some kind of coagulated yellow substance with little black flecks in it.
It's unappealing.
He doesn't know what it is. I know what it is. So we did some candles with a partner, Wick and Skull, shout out. And so we did a Tiny Tina's candle, and with Tiny Tina's, I was very specific about what I wanted it to smell like. I was like, I want it to smell like, kind of like hints of basement, something fruity and sweet, smoky.
Gunpowder, maybe.
Yeah. They hit that one pretty much the first shot. They knocked that one out. In fact, there was one of the first comments on it when it went live for sale was it smells like if you were playing D&D in somebody's basement and somebody spilled a grape soda.
How in the world? I love that it's hints of, is that basement? Oh, fruity bouquet.
Yeah, there's a whole science to what notes conjure what. But on the Claptrap one, I wanted Claptrap to be, I didn't want it to just be, this is a smell that is a yellow smell.
Okay. So not lemon.
Yeah, and I probably drove the partner nuts on this. We were sending samples back and forth. And then finally I had the idea, what if you take this sample that we have and it's this smell, but you put some spice in it to kind of suggest motor oil, mechanical sharpness. And to test the theory and see if I was right, we scooped some wax out of the sample candle, took it down to the kitchen and dumped black pepper and sriracha in it, smashed it up and smelled it. And the whole team smelled it. And we were like, does that smell right? And we decided it did. So we were then confident to give the partner the note of, add some pepper and spice notes to it, and then we'll be good to go. Did
the finished candle smell the way you imagined?
Yeah. My vision wasn't as specific on Claptrap, but I knew I wanted it to be it needs to smell good, and it needs to have some sweetness, but it also needs to have kind of a robotic,
right?
Mechanical
burning
note.
Motor.
Yeah.
Let's talk about community engagement and the way that we bring them into the process and keep that conversation that we've talked about going. Tell me about shift codes.
Yeah, so shift codes are codes that we are able to put out, and we like to hide them everywhere. But they are codes that you can use in the game to get in-game items like golden keys, diamond keys, different guns and gear, and they have been a part of the kind of Borderlands ecosystem since I think Borderlands 2 is when it really started. And then it was, a lot of golden keys, and they were released regularly out on social. So one of the things we do with them is we put them in some of our marketing materials to kind of hey, go play the game, and give people rewards for, tuning in and paying attention.
I know Pitchford's fond of tossing them out all over the place.
Yeah.
They're just spilling out of his pockets.
Yeah, he releases one once a week, and then there was actually and like I mentioned, where we hide them sometimes. There was one of our trailers where for Borderlands 3 where we would hide them in the different like scenes of it and just in different spots. And so people were going through and they'd be like, this is a little part of a shift code. This is a little part of the shift code. Just so that they could, and they got to do that, and then they could redeem it in Borderlands 2 and it worked. There was another one where we had a shift code that worked in Borderlands 2 at the time. Then when Borderlands 3 released, it switched over. So you could actually get a reward in Borderlands 3 as well. And they're just like these little, just little like, hey, thank you. Like, appreciate you.
It gamifies part of your life that isn't a game, so it can be fun. Have you ever hidden one in a licensed product?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's something we do. We've had products where there's one on the packaging. We've done that several times. We don't always do it because the thing about shift codes is like we need to respect their value, and so we do it when it makes sense with product, and of course, like there's some dev cost associated with doing it. So it has to be, it has to be something where it's feasible and it makes sense and it's going to make the experience better for the player.
Do they come to you guys and ask if something's possible with a shift code, or is it just like
yeah, for sure.
Right now.
It's happening right now, actually. And that's the cool thing. Again, shout out to our Spark team for developing this system, but yeah, we're able to give away just not just the golden keys, but we now in Borderlands 3 we introduced diamond keys, which are even more elusive, and then we're able to do specific weapons. So even to the specific part of the weapon, we can.
So that gets you your random gun that you love forever.
Yeah, with the anointment that you.
Exactly. So we can do exact weapons with the exact type of things that people want, or we can do a random weapon. We can do max level, or we can do the level that the player is at. So we do a lot of things like that for special giveaways, or different like
for a game
things.
For a game known 50% for loot. that is it's a full buy-in to that idea. It's like, you want the loot, we've got the loot, we're going to make it fun, we're going to gamify it, we're also going to bring it into the real world. You have to look at something elsewhere from the game to get something that goes into the game.
Yeah, for sure. And when we do things like Mercenary Day or things like that, when we have skins related to that holiday in Borderlands, then we give out shift codes that give you those cosmetics.
Does that fall on the same day every year? Did we canonize Mercenary Day? Is it like April 14th or something?
Mercenary Day is kind of our replacement for a winter holiday.
Okay. That's nice. It's wholesome. Tell me about the hunt.
So the hunt. It actually just ended. The last one just ended. So the hunt is a community event that is. Killer Six is the community member that generally starts getting it together, absolutely amazing human. And its purpose is to raise money for St. Jude. And you do this by people will stream the game. And it's like a scavenger hunt for guns. So you start off a new character and you go through and you're playing the game. And for every drop that you have, a point value is associated with that gear level. And so you're trying to get as many points as you can, and then the first one who gets that wins the hunt. But then the donation side of that is you have to record it in some way so that they know that you're not, that you're doing it legitimately. And so a lot of streamers will use that opportunity to raise money for St. Jude while they're going through this hunt for this 1 week. And so this year, the Borderlands community was able to raise $69,000 over that. And
they stopped right there. They were like, no more money, please.
Yeah, it was a little bit more, but it was 69 for sure. And usually 2K and Gearbox will donate some merch and things to it. And this year, Randy actually donated some of his time, I think, to teach a magic trick or something over Zoom. Of course, he loves that. So it was another great year that they do it. This one was for Borderlands 3. I think that they're planning on doing another one later in the year during the winter time with Borderlands 2, which is where it actually started.
Where should people pay attention if they want to be involved with that?
Last time that Gearbox said anything about it, gave the site the hug of death, but it is the, I think it's Borderlands Hunt or hunt.com, and generally that will get you to where you can kind of see updates for it. And then the entire Borderlands community kind of rallies behind this. So just keeping an eye.
That was also part of a big decision for us to include those dedicated drops into Borderlands 3, is to make sure that the hunt continued. And that was something that we kind of valued. And so that was part of what made that decision.
Yeah.
And so the hunt continued.
Yes.
Erica, I wanted to wrap up licensing talk with why are you was it Destroyer of Dreams?
I prefer Dream Crusher.
Dream Crusher. The Dream Crusher.
But you should know, though, that working in licensing also means having your own dreams crushed, like, all the time. That's everybody on my team will tell you that. Like, yes, we crush dreams. Our dreams are crushed. And we kind of got into it a little bit with, like, why is your cosplay thing that you spent hundreds of hours on better than a mass market thing? There are a whole bunch of limitations and a whole bunch of steps that things have to go through for licensing. And a lot of licensing is we can do more things and more things can happen than we could do scrappily on our own. I mean,
right.
But part of the, situation with that is a lot of the direct work goes out of our hands. So there are sort of economies of this that we do not control. There are market factors that no one controls. And then there's sort of a chain of there's what the partner wants to do. There's what works for us in our universe. And then if they are like retail dependent, and then you also have to get a retailer on board, and all of these things, like every step has its own set of limitations. So like you might be limited in the amount of paint colors you can do on something, or like you want to do a really niche product, but retail is not comfortable with that level of niche. They want something that's more mainstream. Like,
what about products that are pitched to us that we have to reject for whatever reason?
Oh, I mean, we reject things all the time. One that is like, if we want everybody to be sad, a thing that comes up over and over again is we have to reject a lot of things that have to do with Borderlands guns just because it's not feasible. Like, because there are, a gajillion guns, however many our official count is now.
Officially, it's a gazillion.
Yeah. So you and I could play through and never fall in love with the same gun. So how do you pick which guns to do is one thing. Most partners cannot do 200 guns. They might be able to do 3 or 4. Most retailers are only going to buy a handful of guns. And the way our guns are procedurally generated, I can't just pull you this gun model. It's a gun model made of several different parts that if you don't really understand the system, you can't work with the 3D files.
Right.
So a lot of times, like, there will be ideas that have to do with Borderlands guns that are the right ideas. I know people would want them. We can't do them because the amount of work to do them and the sort of, like, in order to do it in the way that the fan would want it, it fits in nobody's budget. We have, right up next to your head, there is a Borderlands gun thing that is really cool. Those, I mean, to that partner's credit, like, we warned them that was going to be hard. They wanted to do it anyway. We embarked on it. It was very hard. They stuck with it. It took a long time for us to get those together, and they're really cool. But that is exactly why there's not more Borderlands gun stuff, because it's hard.
So I've sourced a list of rejected products that I don't know what they are or what they're about. Siren fist bump rings.
Okay, this is one. This is not a rejected one. This is a dream that cannot be. Okay, so if you are
Mario and I looking at each other like, oh, where is ours?
Yeah. So if you're an old school Borderlands fan, you remember the classic trailer where Maya and Lilith do a siren fist bump. I still see cosplayers at shows doing siren fist bumps. We thought, what if you had 2 rings and one of them was kind of like red, like Maya's color scheme, and one of them was kind of like blue or red, like Lilith. No. I do know my characters, you guys. Oh my God. So one's like red, like Lilith's, and one's like blue, like Maya's, and maybe they have like within the stone, like their individual tattoo patterns hinted at in there. And if I have one and Noelle has one and we do a fist bump when they get close to each other, they'll both like a blinking light. Like, and the tech exists to do it. Like, I've talked to a partner.
Would they be $1,000 a piece?
They wouldn't. They could actually be done at a price that maybe not everybody could afford them, but some people could afford them. But it's just the whole matter of no retailer is going to take this.
Sure. I'm having the thing that we just talked about. Why don't you do that? Like, but it's kind of obvious why you don't
We're
do it.
going to see a cosplayer make these
Yes.
tomorrow.
An
Like,
Arduino,
we're gonna see it.
an Arduino, some soldering skills, some mini LEDs. One of y'all, come on.
Yeah.
We're going to see this tomorrow.
Yeah, like it's just a product. It's very hard. It's like if I wanted it to exist, I would have to fund it, and that's not really what licensing does.
Right.
I guarantee you, no retailer is going to take it. It also has the problem of that essentially you need to sell them in sets, and then 2 people need to, have them. And, then you have the thing like...
I know. Mario and our, one set.
But who's going to be Lilith and who's going to be Maya? You guys going to fight?
No. Who do you want to be?
I'll be Maya.
I'll be Lilith.
Duh.
There you go.
Okay,
thought
that will
that was
never
obvious.
happen with any other friend group.
That was
but-
really obvious. Mario, you've got a shirt that I've never seen before. It's claptrap, dual wielding pistols, and says BAMF on it. Is that an officially licensed product, or is that just for us?
It's not. So this is a dev shirt. This is for Borderlands 2 VR. And actually, Erica helped us with the logo and all that to make the shirt. But if you've played Borderlands 2 VR, you know what BAMF is, not the traditional meaning of what we all know BAMF is.
It's not the sound Nightcrawler makes when he teleports. It's something else.
So this is for Badass Mega Fun Time, which was the...
That's what I meant, yes.
Yeah. That was the main kind of feature of Borderlands 2 VR, which slows down time. So we decided to put that on a shirt.
That's interesting that you can go to licensing and be like, this is just for us, but let's go through official channels.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I'm really good at criticizing things. So
Yeah, we went through legal to make sure that we could put this on our shirt. We went through licensing.
If I get seen in a Starbucks with this, are we going to be in trouble? Like,
I've worn it out and people have liked it. So,
Erica, the last thing that I want to bring up is when we talked on our VO episode with April Johnson, localization was something that I was not prepared for the realities of 800 lines of please explain to me why this is funny to a Japanese person or to a German person or whatever, deconstructing things that seem so obvious to us and then figuring out how they might work in other cultures. Does this come up with licensing?
Yes, it does. And I think that whole field is fascinating, and I always want to know, like, if the translation is different, why.
Yeah.
I love that. And then sometimes something happens.
I want to know. I want to know the worst one you got.
Okay, we had a product submitted. It was supposed to be like a really cool butt stallion themed jacket that was kind of like a streetwear, kind of like a bomber jacket. It was really cool looking, and we want to do it as if it's like a Japanese fashion item. Okay, cool. So we'll do a Japanese butt stallion jacket. And so we get the sample in, and we're all like trying it on, and we're fighting over who's going to steal it. And then we're like, hey, you know what though? Like, we should probably check the Japanese on that. And our lawyer Nate reads Japanese, so we go and look for Nate. Well, he's not here today. So Meredith on my team, she's like, well, I took some Japanese in college. If I sit down and concentrate, I can probably figure this out. So she goes and sits down at her PC with the jacket, and she's typing and concentrating, and everybody else in the room is trying not to be distracting. And she's over there, kind of, making a little thinking noises. And then she's like, oh no. And we're like, what? And she's like, I think this says anal stallion. And it did.
I want it.
Oh, yes. Like,
I mean,
obviously we did not ship that product, but the one sample we have is one of the most requested items that people on the team want to borrow.
Is it here?
It's here.
After this, can I wear it? It's probably like a ladies' medium, right?
No, I think it would fit you, actually.
Anal stallion. Thanks for joining us, Vault Hunters. Please put on your officially licensed Borderland Mr. Torg headphones, the ones that automatically bleep all the curse words in your music, but add those same curse words into conversations on the phone with your mom. And subscribe to the audio version of Echoes from the Borderlands wherever podcasts are available. Or you can drill some breathing holes in a mini fridge, learn to ride a unicycle, and show off your Claptrap cosplay. When you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/gearboxofficial. That's where you'll see future episodes of this show. If you play video games, and who doesn't, and you'd like to get every current Borderlands game at one great price, go snag our new bundle, the Borderlands Collection Pandora's Box, available now on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Huge thanks to my guest, Erica Hollinshead-Stead, Noel Pugh, and Mario Rodriguez, as well as our behind-the-scenes heroes April Johnson, Dakota Warren, Matthew Ward, Rob Fernandez, and Hannah Terry. Our theme song is Get Out of My Head by Wandermind. For echoes from the Borderlands, I'm Joel Watson. See you next time, Vault Hunters.